Evening, everyone. Oh, Niall's back. I was just about to say, it looks like he's gone. Welcome to whatever night live. I suppose it's just a York Ebor meeting preview. We're going to have two of these this week. Tonight, looking ahead to the first 2 days, we'll largely focus on tomorrow, and then on Thursday night, we'll look ahead to, is it Thursday night? Friday and Saturday. I think is the plan. So that's what we'll be doing over the course of the next couple of a couple of times during the course of the week ahead of York. Brilliant meeting ahead. We're going to get straight into looking at some of it. Before we do, Niall, you've been at York this afternoon for a chat about conditions and stuff, haven't you?
Yeah, I have, Chris. It was good. I caught up with William Darby and caught up with several people, and genuinely, obviously, I've been doing entries and declarations for jockeys, and looking at the forecast and living local. I was sort of envisaging this morning it being really poor ground, especially towards the end of the week, but I don't think that's the case. It really genuinely was like a carpet today. They had 5 meetings in fairly quick succession when racing started back, but it's good ground, slightly easier leaving the back straight, but it was warm and sunny when I was leaving there. It's going to be dry to the start of racing. By the end of racing tomorrow, they're going to get a fair bit of rain. They might get 8-10 mils, but I think tomorrow we're dealing with decent ground, proper good flat racing ground maybe. But then Friday and Saturday is going to be quite windy and showers, but the wind's going to maybe bring the showers through and maybe not much as first thought. So I was thinking it could be very testing, but I've changed my mind now. I think it'll be Friday and Saturday be very windy.
Right. Okay. So it's not going to be too bad. Because I was sort of initially thinking that conditions might be fairly hard work, but again, I was kind of expecting it to rain a little bit more. I live just up the road from the track, and I was thinking that we might have had a bit more of the wet stuff around. You can send your questions in, by the way. We just had one saying who wins the first, so we'll get straight into that in a second. Mark, York meetings that we always love there. What do you need for a horse at York?
I think you need a horse with pace first and foremost, a horse that travels well. It's just a very fair test, isn't it, really? It doesn't necessarily suit, thorough staying horses necessarily in the way that stiff tracks do, but I think it's just it's as fair a track as you can come across in the country. The sprint track in particular favours pace horses, really. Generally speaking, obviously, if they go too quick in front, it can tee things up for a hold-up horse. But generally, I think you want to be on the speed, not too far away. The draw, it'll be interesting to see how it develops this week. I mean, traditionally, you've wanted to be low on the sprint track at York. It's been a huge advantage to be in the lower numbers. But the meetings that they've had so far back at York since racing came back a couple of months ago, like Niall said, they've had 5 meetings, I think. And high numbers have been doing really well. And if anything, looking like they are the advantage at the moment. So it's kind of spun on its head completely in terms of the draw on the sprint track. So with an eye on race 1, judging by the recent evidence, which is the best evidence we've got, I think you want to be looking at the high numbers, to be honest. I know there's a lot of pace in the lower numbers, but like I say, based on the meetings there last month, you needed to be high to have any chance, really, in those races. So I'm focusing largely on the double-figure draws, I think, in race 1 tomorrow.
Yeah, and you have got a little bit of pace in the high numbers as well.
Moment of madness.
You've got him in stall 22, you've got Jabberwocky in 21, and Watchable in 20, Copper Knight in 15. They don't all necessarily go flat out and make the running every time they run. And you probably have got more out-and-out pace horses in the lower numbers with 1, 6, and 9. You've got just another Bottle Erdis Dream and Acclaim the Nation. So maybe they'll go a little bit quicker there. But if it is the case that the ground is a bit better centre to stand side again, as has seemed to be the case, then you're going to want to be in the high numbers. It looks, Niall, as though whichever way you look at it, they're going to go absolutely flat out here because there are so many very fast horses in it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and across the track. It's one of them races, too. It's not my favourite race of the week. If you're betting, and I think there'll be easier opportunities than this here. You can make a case for just another Botley's low mileage with the trainer Kevin Ryan. Soldiers Minute runs this track well in 2. Skip right across to what we've just touched upon, pace. I thought looking at the prices, I thought Jonah Jones was interesting. He's 14-1. He's low mileage with Ed Walker. I think this extra half furlong today dropped him back last time. Without being rude, it was the day after Enable had just won at Ascot, and the Tory turned up at York, and I don't know, he was slowly away and just floated up behind him. I'm happy to forgive him that run. He's got options in stall 9, at Sini. Ed Walkers are running very well. I think at 14s, if you forgive his last run, he ties in nice. He's better off the weights for the likes of Jawal. I just thought at 14s he made appeal at the prices.
Yeah, won at York as well, hasn't he? A bit of easy ground in the past. He's won at York over 6 on soft ground as a 2-year-old when he was with Tom Daskin.
He's the horse that I quite like in this as well, Niall. As you say, he's drawn high enough for him to maybe be in the right part of the track. If the advantage has been as it has been at some of the recent meetings, if it's a level playing field, he's still right in and among some pace. Yeah. And I agree with you. I think 5.5 furlongs could be absolutely bang on for him. First start for Ed Walker at Haydock. He ran behind a horse that had been going the right way, a real Haydock specialist called Celsius. And he'd have gone very close if he hadn't met trouble that day, and he charged home. Then he was behind Jawal, but he's got a big pull at the weights with that horse. He's dropped a pound. Jawal has gone rocketing up. And then last time out, you can forget that run. He never got in the race, and he was one of the horses that was unfavoured by the draw in that race last time out. He came out of stall 2, he was sent off a well-backed favourite, and basically he had absolutely no chance because of the way the draw was on that day. I think, all things considered, that is a massive price about him. You can get 16-1 with the likes of Sky Bet, their top price on him, and it just looks a really big price for a stable that are going well.
Yeah, we genuinely haven't spoken about this race at all. We're not just agreeing with each other. Like, I just thought when I looked down the prices, because these horses, we all know that, like the Copper Knight runs the track well. Tim Easterby's are flying. He's versatile, won't care about the ground. Lahore, I think you can give him a chance. Still making another winner at Beverley today. He's very much a flat track horse. I can see why they dipped him in. It was listed company in Hamilton. The race cut up, but up and down deal's never been his sort of bag. He'll go quick and he'll stay on late in the piece from stall 5. You can make a case for them all, but he was the one, definitely Jonah Jones at the price. You look at like Arisibo is 7-1. I wouldn't have him in my mind at 7-1 where Jonah Jones 14s at all day Jonah Jones.
No,
Arisibo doesn't look much straightforward, does he, Matt?
No, he doesn't. He doesn't. I think I think he's 1 from 19, isn't he? In all of his since he came to Britain for Dave O'Mara, and all of his wins in his career have come in smaller fields as well. He's got some good form in bigger fields. He has. He ran well in last year's Portland, which is a strong piece of form. Like, he's got bits and pieces you can pick up on and say he's potentially thrown in. He is, but he's been like that all season, and he's still not been getting the job done. At a very big price, I thought Tarbouche could go well. From stall 19. Now, admittedly, he's 105. And it might be a mark that's beyond him winning. But there are some bookmakers that are offering 6 places. You're getting 5 places with the majority of firms. So a horse each way at a big price can make appeal to some people. He's a pretty solid operator as a rule. I think could excuse him last time out at Hamilton when he was making his effort on the wrong part of the track. He was stuck out wide in a small field and it wasn't the place to be. Prior to that, here at York, he was a good 4th in a listed race and he was only beaten half a length, which was probably about a career best effort. It was certainly him close to his very best on that occasion. And you go back to this race 12 months ago off a similar rating, he was only beaten 2 lengths. This is Tarbouche I'm talking about. He was only beaten 2 lengths into 8th last year. And he was drawn in stall 19 last year. Now, he's high again, but last year, the lower numbers were favoured. Stall 10 beat 6, 3, 9 in the first 4 positions in this race 12 months ago. You wanted to be low. He was high. He did pretty well from the high draws. This year, he's on a similar mark. And as I say, if you think that the higher draws might be the place to be this year, which has been the evidence recently, I thought he made a bit of appeal. Tarbouche. As big as 33-1 in some places. Yep. He is 28-1 you can get with 6 places. So it's that type of race, isn't it, where you can throw a few darts
split
at
your
it
sticks
for a few.
Yeah, the other one that I'd sort of have a few quid on is A Moment of Madness. He'd be sort of my second one in the race. I do think Joel's got a good chance. He's just a bit short. A Moment of Madness
Joel's got a very good chance, hasn't he? I mean, I think we flagged him up on here before he won last time out, and he is just a really progressive sprint handicapper. 5 furlongs seems as the making of him, and he's got his head together now, hasn't he, Joel? So if you fancy the favourite yourselves, crack on, but he's a pretty short price, isn't he, to be sort of tipping up and suggesting that he's a good bet.
Yeah, exactly. As I said, the other horse I'd just have a few quid on is A Moment of Madness, who he's running the Portland, which is over 5.5 furlongs, same as this race in the last 2 years. Now, I know that's Doncaster. It might well be that he's stepping towards that again, but he won the race 2 years ago off 99. Last year he was second to the future July Cup winner Oxted off a mark of 95. He's down to 91, and he caught the eye a little bit at Goodwood last time out behind a couple of these when he didn't get a great run through. And he's just back in some decent form. And if you did want to be high, stall 22, he's right against the stands rail. So if that ended up being the place to be, then he might be advantaged. So Jones is my main one. A Moment of Madness at a really big price as well. That's the first. The winners' enclosure have gone with Arecibo. Just to mention as well that you can get the winners' enclosure app now. Download that and you'll get all the tips and the best offers every day at York if you download that winners' enclosure app. And you'll see all the selections. We'll run through those selections. And Arecibo is that tip in the first race from the winners' enclosure. Me and Niall are both with Jonah Jones. I'll throw a little bit on A Moment of Madness as well. And Martin is putting a good word at a big price for Tarboosh, who's as big as 33 to 1. Then we've got a few group races. So really stepping up the quality action, some smaller fields. And we've got the Acomb as the second race on the card. Mark, I'll start with you. What did you make of the favourite Cloudbridge in that win at Leicester?
Very good. Very, very good horse, this. I think he'll win, to be honest. He created a massive impression, to be fair. He really forged away from them in the closing stages. He was a little bit green, but when he hit the rising ground at Leicester, he poured it on, went away, won by 3 1/4 lengths. The third horse, River Alwyn, who was 3 1/4 lengths and a short head behind him, came out at Haydock and won a good race, I think, last week at Haydock on his second start. So that gives you a little bit more substance. And the time of the race was very good. He was actually quite easy in the betting before the debut, suggesting, I think, that there's probably a little bit left to work with, and they weren't necessarily expecting fireworks first time up. But he really did produce. And I'm not sure that this is that hot a race. Obviously, we've got a lot of once raced horses or unexposed horses against him, so we can't say that for sure, but I think he achieved at least as much as anything else has achieved. He did it first time out in a good time, more impressively than any of his other rivals. You've got to trust Charlie Appleby now. He's been doing it for years, hasn't he, with these horses, where, perhaps if it was the other Godolphin stable, I wouldn't be as keen. Well, I definitely wouldn't be as keen, but I think he's such a top trainer that he does just get them rolling, get them progressing. And I like the draw as well. That's another factor. I know it's only a small field. There's only 8 of them. But the draw over the 7 furlong track is a pretty big factor at York. And your ideal position is pretty much stall 3, 4, 5. That's where you want to be, just getting an ideal sit through the race. And I think it'll be no excuses as far as that's concerned for Cloudbridge. And the horse that I viewed as probably his main danger, Royal Scimitar, he's actually out in stall 8. And I thought he was the biggest threat on form, Royal Scimitar. So the fact that he's out in stall 8 in the widest position of all just makes it a little bit trickier for him. So I think Cloudbridge will win. Yeah.
Niall, the most experienced horse in the field is Broxy. You'll be cheering this one, and I'm sure because Keith Dalgleish, a mate of yours, trains him, and Shane Gray, who you book the rides for, rides him. So you'll be in for a few quid if this fella wins.
Yeah, I think one of my jockeys won it last year, Tony Hamilton. It's been a race I think I've won a few of these. First impressions when I saw the entries, I didn't think, this is a vintage race. But as Martin's touched on, we're dealing with lightly raced horses, and you never know where the sort of ceiling of their ability can be. Broxy's tough. He was in the nursery on Thursday, and we chatted to Keith, and I said, look, there's 8 runners, there was 7 runners plus him. I said, have a go. If the ground, if it did rain, he's versatile regarding ground. He's a tough little 2-year-old that probably will be outclassed, but he's very straightforward. He's the most experienced runner in the race, and if they can nick a bit of place money, because you never know how these races pan out. Totally agree with Mark what he said about Cloudbridge. I've sort of furlong down, you're thinking, oh, this is just an ordinary old race. But it was inside the last half furlong where he sort of changed legs and rocketed home, looking really green. Ryan Moore was an eye-catching jockey booking that day. Gear Up is a horse I like. He only won a median auction first time out. I was working with one of these two. I can't remember what Dixon it was. When he won the first race of the day. Yeah, and he got loose coming across the Knavesmire. And he galloped loose. I was speaking to Robin Watton, the travelling head girl of Mark Johnson's. He galloped loose for a fair bit. And in the race, he came clear a length and a quarter. Now, it was only a median auction, but I really liked the way he done it. He looked professional and he looked tough. Mark's horses, albeit he had a winner today at Beverley, but they're operating around an 8-9% strike rate for a yard of so good. They're not exactly flying, but I like him. I respect him. But the one I'd go with, if you give me a free bet right now at the prices, Darville's 9-2 in places. He's by Dark Angel. He's out of Anthem Alexander, who was a really smart race mare. He looked apart. We were at Haydock. I was at Haydock when he made his debut. He was very coltish. He went round on 5 legs and completely blew his top. Pardon the pun. And he was like, he traded at long odds on all overnight and early morning. Now, his antiques in the parade ring, even when they were loading him up in the stalls, he had his mind in other things and it wasn't racing. He went up to Ayr afterwards, and in an ordinary race, he won by 2 lengths. I think mentally he'll take a step forward. He's got the best pedigree. The favourites pedigree isn't, for a Charlie Appleby horse, not the right home about. I like Darville. Physically, if you see him in the paddock tomorrow, he's a big, strong, good-looking horse. He's bred to be very smart. Kevin Ryan's got an excellent record of York. Did Blaine win this? No, he won the Gym Crack. But he's got an excellent record at one of his local tracks. His horses since racing started, Diamond Jubilees, Wokenhams, across the board, they've run very well. I think 9-2 Darville's the way I'd play it.
Yeah, Sifax obviously won it for the stable a few years back. That was a payday for you. Jamie Spencer won it. You've had a payday out of this in three of the last 4 years now, you have?
Yeah, it's been a good race to me. I think I might lose my little record tomorrow. But if Darville wins, I'll be happy, because I was trying to... some people might shoot me down, but if he was 9-2, 5-1, you could try and back him each way.
Yep. Okay. The Winners Enclosure have gone with Cloudbridge as well. Reminder, you can get all of the Winners Enclosure tips on the Winners Enclosure app. You what?
I've just downloaded that. I like the app.
Oh, have you?
Good man.
I wonder, David O'Mara's views on his runners are probably on there as well. They're certainly on the Winners Enclosure site, so you can get thoughts on his runners. He's got a few coming up during the course of the week at York, and each morning you'll be able to look at what he's got to say about his runners. So I'm with Cloudbridge there as well. Mark, you're a strong one behind Cloudbridge, and Niall, you're with Darville at a bigger price.
Darville all day, yeah. At the price is Darville.
Yep. Then we're on to the Great Voltager, 2:45 tomorrow afternoon. And we've got a mile and a half the trip here. Just 8 runners once again, Group 2. So Mogul, he sets the standard on form. He's got better with each run so far this year. Is that going to be good enough to win this Mark, or is he going to have to improve again in order to win a Great Voltager?
Yeah, it's hard to know, isn't it? For the simple reason that the 2 horses that you probably look at as his main rivals are actually the horses that you can't rate that highly. The Darrain and Roberto Escobar, they've only won novice races. They're just stepping up markedly in class, but both of them have done it in the manner of good horses and have proper pedigrees to work with as well. So I'm not sure he'll have to improve. I must admit, I've just flashed the betting up now, and for a horse that's achieved as much as he's achieved and been as progressive as he has been coming into this race, he's a bigger price than I thought he would be. And maybe that's because Darrain is taking out a little bit more of the market than he perhaps should be. in my opinion. I think he's got quite a bit of improving to do, Darren. I'm not sure that either of the races that he's won, yes, he's been impressive, but I don't think either of the races that he's won have been up to much in truth. And I think it's more of a, particularly the run last time out anyway, and I think it's more of a pedigree connections sort of price at this moment in time than it is actually a price based on his achievements, Darren. So I think he's an opposable horse at the odds. Murgle deserves to be favourite, deserves to be a pretty short priced favourite, I'd say. He wasn't ready, was he, early part of the season? Simple as that. I think they kind of probably had a bit of a rush job getting him ready for the Derby. Didn't quite work out, but put it all right in the Gordon Stakes last time out. Showed a good attitude, loads of stamina. And he's a horse that's going to keep on improving, I'm sure. I suspect he's going to be knocking on the door of being a Group 1 horse. And if that is the case, then, you know, he's going to take plenty of beating. I couldn't talk anybody out of him. Like I say, I think he's a bigger price than I thought he should be or would be. But I do like this Roberto Escobar a lot, William Haggis's horse. I think this is a very, very good horse. Now, whether he's going to be good enough to beat Murgle, I couldn't say with confidence, but I do think he's a very good horse. He knocked the eye out on his debut at Haydock, where he lost it at the start, really. But he lost probably 4 or 5 lengths at the gates, was ended up right out the back of the field, and then rattled home and did really well to be beaten a couple of lengths. And then he went to York next time out, and it was actually a really good race. It was only a novice race on paper, but the runner-up of that race, Matthew Flinders, to me had looked like a group horse in the making, the way that he had won a good race at Doncaster previously. And Roberto Escobar just kicked him out of touch completely. He absolutely bolted up 4 lengths, beating a really good horse. He was admittedly receiving £7 from the runner-up, but still, it was a very good performance. I'm looking at the prices now, thinking, to be honest with you, and this is the way that we do bet a lot anyway, Chris. I'd take on Darren and I'd back the other 2. I'd have a decent stab at Murgle and definitely, you know, be with Roberto Escobar to some extent and play around with the stakes a little bit, but have them both as winners. I think one of the 2 will probably win the race. Like I say, I think Darren, to me, is the one that is the wrong price on what he's actually done.
Yeah. Niall, are there any of the 5 that are outside those front 3 in the market that you can say they've got a chance, or do you just think they're not going to be up to it?
There's no reason I could see why Highland Chief, I'm not saying it because Joe Fanning, but I thought Subjectivist got a perfect ride last time out at Goodwood. He got a soft timing up front, kicked at a good stage and nicked a couple of lengths. I can't see why Subjectivist or Highland Chief can turn the tables with Muggle on Goodwood. Totally agree with you. Again, Darrain cost $3.5 million. He's bred to be a racehorse by Debawi out of Darray Me. I thought, I don't say he looked a goat, but I didn't really like him at Newmarket last time out. I thought he made really hard work of it. He's rated 96. He did for a while, didn't he? Yeah, he did. He did. And it was a windy day, and he had to kick him out and sort of make it. He gave £7 the runner up, or £6, and they got racing a fair way down, but it was hard enough. It was like watching you talks for the last 2 furlongs. I didn't like him. Completely agree. Roberto Escobar, he's a half-brother, full brother to Pablo Escobar. The form Brentford Hope was 4th, the 2nd of Ed Walker's. I think he's a good horse. He's £19 in fear regarding handicap marks with Mughal. So he's got to improve, but William Haggis at his beloved York is excellent. Again, he's 9 to 2, 5 to 1. He categorically is the bet. Completely against Darrain. Respect Mughal.
Yeah. I suppose the thing with Roberto Escobar is ratings don't tell you the full story with a horse at this time of its career, because there's no way that
he ran twice.
You can't.
If he was running in a handicap,
he'd be absolutely. If he was running a handicap, you'd be thinking he'd be lobbed in, and that's the point that I was going to come to. They had him entered in the handicap. And William Haggis loves. He's not one to waste a handicap mark for the sake of wasting a handicap mark, is he? And yet he's basically willing to waste the handicap mark to go on and win this at a track where he loves having winners. And I think the fact that he thinks he's worthy of a crack at this race probably tells you as much as you need to know, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I think he'll go close to winning.
Yeah, he will have to be a good horse. He will have to be a good horse to beat Murgle, but I think the fact that Darrain takes so much out of the market, the way that I'd like to play it is just back the pair of them, which some people might not want to do. I acknowledge that, but I think one of the two will win, and Darrain makes the market for you really as a punter.
Yeah, okay. I agree, Mark.
The winners' enclosure have gone for Darrain after all that.
Oh, come on! Been active. It's a goat.
On our face after this.
Have they got in a double where Aristabo in the first?
They have tipped Aristabo, yeah.
Moving on.
Right, we'll do exactly that. We'll move on to the Group 1, the Juddmonte International. Year on year, this ends up being one of the highest rated races in the world. And we've got a good, solid renewal of it. Gaiath is the horse at the top of the market. Are there any goats against him now or not?
No, absolutely not. You just said what I think this is a fantastic renewal. I think it's a brilliant race. Aspetar, disappointing he doesn't run, but even his form last time out, disappointing. But his form in the City of York, or the Sky Bet 6, wouldn't been good enough to get near these. You look at Rosa Kildare, she's a really likeable, tough filly. She won the Musidora last time out, and she's 100-1 outsider. That sort of tells you, doesn't it? Like, it's a fantastic race. Gaiath will jump and make the running, so we know that sometimes when you get messy 5-runner races, it can turn tactical. And as David Cleary, one of my fellow co-workers, would say, it can be an unsatisfactory piece of form. But we know with Gaiath in the race, he will jump from stall 2. He'll go a proper end-to-end gallop. He's got Magical, who's just been a superstar. Lord North, since he gelded him, is just he's had a fantastic season. Cameo at this trip, obviously Guineas winner. I think this 10 furlong flat track, no excuses. I think it's a great race.
Yep, I think it's a really good race. Lord North, he's 7-2, and he's the one that is being backed at the moment. Is that Ascot race that he, the Royal Ascot win, the Prince of Wales's, is that actually any good?
The Barney Roy was run over in some little part of Germany at the weekend. Yeah, I do agree.
And Adair, he's basically a horse that always looked like he needed a bog. And I know that he'd won a Group 1, but he won a Group 1 in Australia. And basically, their middle distance Group 1s are crap, aren't they?
Yeah, and he couldn't even win that. He couldn't win the Sky Bet York Stakes last year against a heap of yaks. I do agree at the short of the market. I was thinking earlier in the week, if it turned up a real bog, it might sort of inconvenience him less than others. He's the one that the short price ones that I'm not really interested in. And the way they bet, Gaiath is 11-8. I think I'd be with Magical 7-2, 4-1.
Yeah, go with the Magical. What do you think, Matt? To me, Kamiko looks. I haven't formed a strong view on it yet, but what I do think is that Kamiko has struck for a while like he's just going to be ideally suited by 10 furlongs. I think that's going to be his trip, either that or a mile where they go too quick like the Guineas.
Yeah, it probably will. I think he'll run very well. I think he's the main danger to Gaiath, Kamiko, but I mean, I think Gaiath will probably pulverise him, to be honest. His form, pretty much each of his runs this season, when he ran against Group 2 horses or Group 3 horses in Dubai, obviously he was rampant. Then he's beaten the Derby winner from last year, Anthony Van Dyke, and Stradivarius, admittedly over a trip that Stradivarius was short of his best on his comeback run. But he still had him in trouble so far out and recorded a good time at Newmarket. He was very impressive. And then he's beaten Enable, and even if you think Enable wasn't at her best, which she probably wasn't, on her comeback run, he had Japan further back in third, Magic One, Deirdre, Regal Reality. These are proper, these are Group 1 performers. There's no two ways about it. And he dominated the race at Sandown. And time figure on time form was 126. So it's not a case of Gaiath going out, dawdling his way out in front, picking up 2.5 out and sort of the rider taking the mick out of the rest of them. He set, as Gaiath does, just went out, set a very good gallop that pretty much every other horse was uncomfortable with. And I just think he'll do the same again, to be honest. I think if anything, this is probably a weaker field than the Eclipse. He bolted up in the Eclipse, and I've got little reason to think that he won't repeat it, to be honest. As I say, Kamiko for me is the main danger, because he's the one that I can't categorically say he's not going to be as good as Gaia, in receipt of the weight as a 3-year-old. I think Magical's a notch below. I think Lord North is probably 2 notches below. And, he's the one world-class horse in the race. And I think he'll take a hell of a lot of beating.
Yep. Okay. I think Gaia or Kamiko will probably win it. I think Gaia, he's just taking his racing better this year as well. You've always got in the back of your mind with a horse like him that he hasn't been the most consistent in the past. But I think as a 5-year-old, he's just reached maturity and he's able to sort of put these efforts together. And he's had a month and a half since the Eclipse as well, which is longer than he had between Newmarket and the Eclipse. So I don't think there's too much wrong with him. So I'm going to go with Gaia. I'm just looking over it. Winners Enclosure have gone for the horse that we've had a dig at again. Lord knows. But we're not there. I need to start checking these first before we slate what they've gone with. Anyway, they might be absolutely bang on the money and we're completely winding them out with this.
They might be, absolutely. Winners Enclosure get their lucky 15 up.
Exactly. They might be. Anyway,
they might not.
If all those tips we're not having a go, and it's all about opinions. But they are available on the Winners Enclosure app. As I mentioned, download that. You'll get the tips each day, not just for here, but other meetings as well. And you'll get news of all the best offers that are upcoming. Right, off the group races, back to the handicaps. The slower ones now. Niall, 2 miles for this 3:45. You'll be off for a cup of tea, will you?
No, I quite like them. And no, if it was jump racing, yeah, absolutely. But no, I like this here. For horses rated 105, you've a Volcanic Sky, £3 below the ceiling rating. Lots of these that we know plenty about. I suppose Make My Day is the one who's lightly raced for Ralph Beckett or Rafe, whatever you want to call me. Beat Prejudice here at York last time out. He won really well. He's a son of Galileo. He was formerly trained by John Gosden. Not many slipped through the net at John Gosden's, but he won. He beat December 2nd at Goodwood, and then he obviously had cleared some sort of trouble, and he was off the track over a year. But he was easy enough to back, but he beat Prejudice in second place. And the Prejudice is hard to get an angle on him. He's bred to be very good, but he's very soft. Don't think it was the strongest piece of form, but he's low mileage, unexposed, getting weight away from some really decent horses. But I'm just looking at the bet, and he's actually 4-1. You've got just Hubert in there. I think he's a very, very good horse. If the rain doesn't materialise, he's got a chance. It'll be running at a good gallop with Rutster House and Summer Moon in the race. He's probably priced up accordingly. It's the first time I'm looking at the price. I didn't think he'd be that short. True Destiny, people keep making cases for him. He's all right, but I just think we know enough about him.
Yeah, he's a horse that will give his running, isn't he? At least, but
yeah, he'll give his running. Ryan Moore on him, but he's not way ahead of his mark. I just thought Make My Day likes a track. I think this trip will suit him. That could eke out more improvement. Rafe Beckett and Rob Hornby, they've had a really good season together, and the horses continue to run well.
Yep, he's got a good chance, that horse, Make My Day, hasn't he? He's well enough bound, but if there's anything that's going to improve and be miles ahead of its mark, it's him. He's only had 4 starts. Yeah,
he's a little bit like Jawal in the first, isn't he? I cannot knock him at all. It's just a case of do you want to back him at 4-1 really?
17 runners, yeah. I didn't think.
Yeah, I must admit, I didn't. I wasn't sure about Just Hubert earlier on in the season, but he impressed me last time out. It was the first time, obviously, up in trip 2.5 mile at Goodwood. And he saw it out very strongly, didn't he? I thought he did well to win. He didn't get the clearest run through. D'Souza had given Rochester House an absolute peach from the front in a race that traditionally the leaders over that marathon trip at Goodwood, they quite often get away from them, and it's hard to come from a long way back. I thought D'Souza gave Rochester House a peach, and Just Hubert was just good enough and well enough treated to peg him back. £4 looks quite lenient for him. You know, he's a 4-year-old. He's still unexposed as a stayer. And although he's down in trip, they're likely to go pretty quick here, aren't they? Because we've got Rochester House in there, Summer Moon's in there. There's plenty of them. Blakeney Point probably won't be too far away. Donald McCain, Rodzinski made the running in the Marsh Cup last time out at Newbury. So there's a good few of them that'll hopefully push the pace on and make it a true test. And if that is the case, I think Just Hubert, he arrives in very good form. I'm just looking at the prices myself now, and what is he, 12 or 14 to 1? So
yeah, the thing about puts me off backing him now. I really like Just Hubert. I remember when the Musselburgh a valuable race last year. He looked a real unfurnished horse that would continue to improve. If you watch him gallop, he definitely needs proper quick ground. The most rain that the Naasmar is going to get this week is going to come tomorrow in around 3 o'clock. If it comes a bit later, I think it's chance. But after they've raced a few races, if it comes a little bit earlier, it would put me off. I actually mentioned to a couple of people to buy him to go to Australia. I think if he got his rating up, he could be a Melbourne Cup horse. I think he's very, very ground dependent. But I think if it remains on the quick side, Tom Arcott was on board for the first time last time out. Great that he keeps the ride on him. But I think he's sometimes we all pigeonhole horses too quickly. But I've definitely pigeonholed him. I think ground's very important to him.
Yeah.
Just in Time was the other one that I thought was a bit of a player. He'd obviously had something wrong with him. Yeah, and he must have had something wrong with him because he missed ages after the Cesarewitch, and he was behind a few of these at Newbury on his return to actually finish. Yeah, he finished just in front of Just Hubert. It was a messy race, and he probably wasn't seen to best effect really. But if you go back to some of his old form, like he won a Mallard, which is always a strong race, and he beat a couple of horses there that sort of since then have gone on and proved themselves capable of winning the marks off the marks that they were on and a bit higher. He's only a couple of pound higher than then, and if he's come on for that run, I think he's a real big price. And I don't think he'll be bothered which way the ground goes. If they have a chunk of rain, it's not going to bother him because he's a winner on soft, but he's a winner on quick ground as well. So I thought he was fairly interesting at a big price.
I looked at him earlier and I was thinking, I really love Alan King. As a trainer, I keep saying to him, keep winding him up. I said, you want to forget about them hairy yaks over jumps, concentrate in the flat because I think he's excellent. Then I was looking this morning at the race and I was like, his horses aren't running great. 1 from 21 the last fortnight. But when you actually look into it, I think he's at 5 seconds and 2/3 places out of them 21 runners. So actually his horses are running fine.
He's had another second. He's had another second at a big price tonight at Kempton as well. So that's another one in the mix.
Yeah. So initially when I looked at it, I was a bit worried, but no, fine. I take your point about him. And cheek pieces on first time. Yeah.
They're on for the first time. Do you want a boring stat that?
No.
Well, I'll give you it anyway. I had a bit of a look before because that's the kind of thing that I do. 1.25 miles. You're looking at me like I'm some weirdo, aren't you? 1.25 miles double figure fields at York, 1.25 miles or further. So 1 mile.
You better be out wide.
No.
Go on.
In the last 5 years, 2 horses from 94 that have tried have led making all the running to win. 40 have come from the back of the field from 82 races. So you've had 94 horses have either led or disputed the lead across those 82 races. Only 2 of them have managed to go on and win. 40 of them have had an in-running comment with held up. So, wasn't that boring, was it?
Sorry, I wasn't listening. What did you say?
So anyway, you want to do something from off the pace? If anyone's been putting any questions, I haven't seen any come up. But if you have, sorry if we've not seen. If you want to ask anything,
just Hubert will be held up, and so will Just in Time. So yeah, probably.
True Destiny.
So will Summer Moon because we're going to tell Joe Padding your stat.
No, don't go tell him that. I want to take it on. Winners Enclosure have gone with True Destiny in that race. It ran all right actually when he was really well backed at Goodwood last time out. Right, on to the fillies handicap.
Can we skip this one now?
It's one of the less competitive races of the week. Any fancies?
Samper 7 done it well last time from the front. A 3-year-old D'Souza, you know what sort of ride it's going to get. She was a bit hot-headed leaving the paddock. You had to take her down to start very, very, very steady. But she's only had 4 runs for this trainer. She's won 2 of them. She won off 76. She's up 10 pounds, so the handicapper didn't miss her. But in among her own sex again, she's just an unexposed 3-year-old. Let's be honest. We know plenty about these other things, don't we? I nearly are out of a cup of tea during this and the staying race.
Yeah, it'll have to be quick, but it won't take long. I thought I've just had a look. Dancing in the Street's favourite. That's a horse.
Yeah, she's got a lot in her favour, hasn't she? But that's skinny price.
Yeah,
isn't it? Yeah. Very.
She's got some strong form in those handicaps, and then she went into a group race and had no chance to withdraw last time out here. The Newmarket form behind progressive rating, it hasn't necessarily worked out really well yet, but every year that 3-year-old handicap is one of the strongest 3-year-old handicaps there is. The Ascot one, there's no reason to think that isn't going to be a red hot piece of form behind Art Power, who's obviously gone on. Keep Busy finished in second. Keep Busy's in the field again here, second favourite. And the Haydock run the time before that worked out quite well, didn't it? Ishvara, Royal Context, Guardsman was in behind. That's not a bad little race. The front of the market's got those 2 horses, the 3-year-olds with that Ascot form, because you've got Keep Busy in there as well, who came out and got beaten here at York after that run in the same race as what Dancing in the Street got beaten in, and won a egg and spoon race up at Hamilton.
An egg and spoon race. That was a good little conditions race. You had El Astronauti in behind, stable companion. You had Tarbouche, who Martin's making the case for a better race in the opening contest. You had Istanbul, who runs in the first race for Richard Pye in behind.
Chance, though, has it?
That was not an egg and spoon race.
That's a fair enough comment. It was a small field and it wasn't that good.
What price would it was a small field conditions race? El Astronauti, what price? I know he's not a filly, but he would wipe the floor with these yaks. Istanbul had won a good novice form. Lahore was 4th. He'd won a really competitive handicap at this track previously, and Tarbouche was last. And you're telling me he's going to win the first race? So, steady on me, or yak.
I think I wouldn't be surprised to see Free Love run well for Mick Appleby and Theo Ladd. She came back to form last time out, didn't she? She took a couple of runs to get to the Boyle. Last year, if you look at some of her form, she was a winner off 86 at her best last year. She comes into this race back in form off a mark of 82. So she's 4 lower than her last winning mark. And she actually ran in this race last year. And she didn't. She ran at York at the back end of the season in October, and she ran pretty well, but she was just drawn off the wrong side of the track. I think she could go well each way. Free Love. She's as big as 16 to 1. No, you're not having it. I think she could run pretty well.
York, 11th of 22. York, 8th of 9. York, 9th of 14. Fully exposed. Goat. Samper 7 and Keep Busy. The winner doesn't come outside them 2. Fact.
There you go. Was that Thomas shouting a tip in the background?
Yeah, his mother's just come in. He was happy to see her.
I thought he was shouting about Free Love having a fantastic chance and telling his dad to shut up.
No, he wasn't. He doesn't know a lot, but he knows that won't be winning.
And then we've got the nursery final race on the card. Anything that's really catching the eye in that? Pure Dreamer?
Pure Dream as well handicapped, didn't he? Off 72. He ran at Sandown last time out over 5, and he was staying on well at the finish, basically, in the manner of a horse that would appreciate going back up to 6. His debut was over 6, but he was a little bit too green to show his show his best, but he still showed plenty of promise. I think he's probably £5 or £6 light, isn't he, in terms of his mark? I think he's been let in pretty lightly. Pure Dreamer. He'd be top of my list.
I would I'd take a chance on number 3, Tussarock for Mark Johnson, PJ McDonald. I'm telling you earlier in the day that I think Darville's got a really good chance to win the Acom. Well, this horse was trying to give him £7 up at air last time out. He won on his debut. For me, it was a better run behind Darville. I think after the Acom, if Darville runs well, of a mark of 85, this horse could be well in. I like his draw on stall 5. I like his price. He's sort of 8-9 to 1. I think he's got a fair chance.
Yeah, he's interesting. I liked mainly Pure Dreamer. I thought 72 was just basically too low. You're going to get a pointer with the Acom as well. Second to Royal Scimitar. First time up. 6 behind Royal Scimitar, but that was on his debut. He's got to turn the form around with Line of Departure, but he's obviously now into a handicap off 72. When he went to Sandown last time out behind Politics, that race was running a pretty quick time. The winner of it clocked a faster time than the following nursery and the 3-year-old handicap, which we just had Garsman chinned in, Matt. And that race was quicker than the pair of them. So I thought that was probably not a bad bit of form, really, from Politics. And Pure Dreamer obviously finished in third. Ran a nice enough race, and I'm sure that he's well handicapped, and he's what as big as 6 to 1. He's 11 to 2, and likes a Sky Bet as well. So thought he was worth a look. Winners enclosed the last 2 races. They've gone Dancing in the Street in the 420 and Cairn Island in the 450. So that's day 1 looked at. We're going to very quickly have a look at the second day. But best bets on day 1?
I got Darville in the Acom.
Yeah.
Well, I won't take you on with Cloudbridge then. I'll say best bet. Bloody hell. Free love each way.
Not the two against the field.
Free love each way in the Phillies handicap.
Have you been drinking?
I'm going to go with Jonah Jones in first. What a big price.
Yeah, wouldn't disagree with that.
I'll go with that. Right, we'll have a quick look at the second day. We won't go through every single race. I'll start now. You'll have done the jockeys for this morning. Do you think you've booked anyone onto a winner?
No, it's hard. It really is hard. Like you've a wide open lather, Seals race, stick a stone in it. The Clipper Logistics, many firms will be going 5-6 places, but you got 20 really good handicappers. Fancy a couple of prices. The Yorkshire Oaks obviously have 2 to 5 love. The Gultrees wide open as well, and a nursery and a Phillies handicap to conclude. So it's not easy. No,
it's definitely not easy. What? Just go through some of these, but
Dave's filly that runs in the first, in the Lowther, Nuaban.
Yeah,
she looked really smart when she won at Beverley, didn't she? And
missing the break badly. Missing the break badly. She done really well. Smooth performance.
And that Billion, I think for an auction race, it was a pretty good race, wasn't it? Billion came out and beat the runner-up next time out. Billion had finished third, and they finished first and third at the track the next time. And Noban, she way better than them. She only won by 3 parts of a length, but she did loads wrong in the early part of the race. Did very well to win. I think she'll be competitive.
Yeah, I think she will. I think she'll run a good race.
There's one at 14 to 1. Kultum or something it's called. Thank Christ I'm not calling them home. Of Richard Fahey's. It was an ordinary race at Thirsk. An ordinary enough maiden. You had Digital in there was second rate at 80. But if you watch this race through, half a furlong from the finish, the second and third had a benefit of a run and had shown clear ability. And this thing was so green. And the penny drop, like coming to the line, you still don't believe it. That's to say, go watch the replay of it. Coming to the line, you think, well, that's run a good race. It's going to run on. And absolutely sprints home. And Barry McHugh couldn't pull it up. it's the time when Richard Fahey's weren't exactly flying. They've really kicked into gear now. She's like 12, 14 to 1. I think she's a runner in the Lowther.
Yep, probably is. It's an open race, and I don't think there's those sort of 2-year-old filly form lines. There's horses in there that have got sort of the standard setting form, but you don't quite know where they are and whether those levels of form are absolutely rock solid, do you, at the minute? And I think some of these horses, they've only had the one start, could maybe cause a bit of an upset in some of those races. You were talking about Thirsk form there. When Top Rank won at Thirsk, maintaining his unbeaten record, he had the look of a possible group horse, didn't he, that day? And he's going to be favourite for the Clipper Logistics, the big handicap. That's the third race on the card.
Yeah.
So he'd definitely be one. I'm just looking at the betting. He's well found as favourite, but he looked a really good horse, I thought, that day.
Oh, I genuinely, he was coming back from a really long layoff against some really solid 85 rated handicappers who ran Thirsk well. And he was back. He was odds on for most of the afternoon. I think he went off even money or just slightly odds on. And he absolutely dotted up. I didn't think we'd see him in another handicap. I think I saw the early close races. Cambridgeshire shut today. He's in that. I think he's a hell of a horse. He's clearly been hard to train. You don't need to be a paddock judge. Genuinely, the best looking horse at York this week will be Top Rank. He's absolutely gorgeous. He went through it like a group horse masquerading in a handicap. He's 9-2, 5-1. I completely see why he is. And that's in a 20 runner handicap. The likes of What's the Story won the race last year. Fairmont loves the track. Prompting's on a roll. Solid Stones from a yard who are excellent, who forgive him his last run as a big chance. But I read Bond went off far too quick.
Solid Stone, did he? But could be the same again from stall 19. That's the worry with him, I think.
Yeah. All my jockeys are stalled 17, 19, and 20, something like that.
Is it a case of how far for love in the Yorkshire Oaks?
Yeah, I think if the rain came, if they got more than they anticipated, Manella de Vega could outrun her price. But yeah, she. In fairness to John Gosney, he's declared 2, Franconi and Frankly Darling, which is going to make it a race. It gives the race a bit of credit, doesn't it? But Love's looked exceptional.
Yeah, no, she definitely has.
A good race.
Genuinely was pretty. I find her very hard to take on.
Yeah.
Berman will run well in that mile race, won't he? If you look at his record at York in isolation, this race he won, wasn't it, last year? I think. Similarly weighted.
Lost you, Mark.
You've gone quiet, Mark.
Have I?
Yeah. Sounds like you're miles away all of a sudden. Anyway. Not really, but we've got pretty much to the end anyway, so it's not too much of a problem. As I say, it's tough to know. We didn't want to spend too long on the second day because, as Niall said, if there's going to be some rain, it's going to be mid-afternoon tomorrow, and there's no point in digging out a load of tips for the day when we don't know what the ground conditions are going to be. It makes it fairly difficult. You've got a horse like Lowerhead who's going to have a real good chance in the final race on day 2 for William Haggis. But if it rains, you might have a little bit of an issue. I thought she was really impressive when she made all at Haydock on to break her maiden last time out, and she could be on a pretty good mark based on all bits of her form so far. But again, you just don't know about the ground, so that's why we've got a bit light on the final day. But
can I put one up, Chris, in that last race, the 450? You asked me a minute ago on the second day, have I booked any winners? I think Martin will agree with me. In that last race, there's a filly, Amber Storm of Keith Douglas's. She went up 3 for getting beat at Haydock. She's running £3 out of the handicap. She's running in a much better grade. But I think she's a massive runner. I think she's got an excellent chance. Some firms have priced her up 14 to 1. I will be backing her at that price. Mart, you agree? She's shaped like a. I think they'll get black type. She's rated 85. I think she'll get black type. The way her win at Musselburgh wasn't worth a hill of beans of form, and she's a bit green. She unshipped the jockey before and after the race. Last time out at Haydock, she should have won. Watch the race back, Chris. And I'm happy, despite being wrong in the weights and up in the weights. I can't say her out of the money here. Ground won't ball. I won't blame the ground if she's out of the money.
Yep. Okay.
She's hanging on to just, pucking through horses a little bit more. Last time she came revving down the outside and just did it all a little bit too soon, but it was very impressive how she picked up.
8 stone her back.
Definitely, she's definitely got a big performance in her when things drop right. I think she just wants a good gallop to aim at, picking her way through the pack and delivering later than she was last time.
14-1.
Tell Sir Joe to switch right a little bit coming out of the stalls, because stall 1's got an absolute stinker of a record of a 7 at the York.
Yeah, no, I know. I'll have a word with him.
Can't do anything. I mean, if you could just slot into stall 2 on the sly, that'd be a trick.
I'll have a word. But I think genuinely, the 2 days we've looked at in depth, if you had to say, right, you've got one free bet, I'd go Amber Storm each way.
Yep. Okay. Right. Well, that's it. We're pretty much up to an hour, so we better go get on. We'll be back later in the week for a look ahead to the final 2 days of the meeting at York. But for now, good night, and we'll see you all again pretty soon.
Thanks, Chris. Thanks, everyone.